IFA Sidewinders training video for coaches and players. We try to, in our Warrior program, approach our training sessions from 4 dimensions: a physical dimension that we call physico, skills, or what we call technical, understandings of systems of play, what we call tactical, and then of course the psychological or the mental side. What you'll be watching in this series of segments will be training sessions conducted in the spring of 2007 by myself and Coach Joe Kelly and Coach Scott Fritzler and Coach Greg Hammonds. We are preparing for our regionals game, and Jesse Bush is the cameraman who is graciously compiling this information for you. I hope that this information is useful, beneficial, as we continue to train youth talent here in the town of Worland, hopefully with the expectation of someday receiving, if not winning, a state cup. Thank you for your time and your attention, and I hope that this information is beneficial to you. Very briefly, I want to set up the video, the DVD. What you will hear are some introductory comments by me now, and then you will see some training sessions as conducted in the spring of 2007 by Warrior soccer players. I hope that this instructional materials can help you as coach to improve player performance. When we think about training sessions, we normally will divide those training sessions into 4 areas: the technical side of the game, skills; the tactical understandings of the game, the way in which we move players around the pitch; the physical side of the game, the ability to sustain energy and strength; and then finally the psychological, the mental side. All 4 of these are very important, and the DVD will be somewhat structured to accommodate to all 4 of these different areas. I want to talk very quickly about each of these, beginning with the physical side. Our challenge is to develop what we call core strength and coordination. Body posture is very important. You will see in some of the training sessions that we emphasize body posture as part of developing young players. The importance of a warm-up cannot be overstated. We have to make sure that we are instilling in the minds of our young players the value of warming up properly. We don't want players getting out of the van just wailing balls on the net. We always want to emphasize that we need our keepers as well warmed up before they receive any shots. I would also recommend that you try to make the warm-up as fun as possible. You will see what we call Warrior skills warm-ups, and I recommend that you use these at the beginning of your training sessions. And also I would recommend that you always remember that anything we're talking about on the physical side of the game is always age appropriate. Remember, some of you are coaching very young players, and therefore we do not want to be too physically demanding early, especially early in the season. And even at the high school level, when I'm coaching athletes that are physically fairly gifted, still we will always begin our season and gradually increase the amount of expectations for physico. In other words, don't begin the early part of your season with a 1 or a 2 mile run. It's going to be counterproductive. We want our players to develop physically in such a way that they don't really understand that they are growing physically in terms of strength. It's fun to them. Let's talk technical work real fast. The work of the technical and the skills work. Think about it in terms of basketball, and this will maybe make sense. If you can't catch a basketball, you'll never be able to play basketball, and in soccer we call this first touch. So you're going to see training sessions here with first touch drills from the head all the way to the feet. This is very important to us, as well as, of course, advancing the ball through dribbling, passing, of course, shooting. And then often forgotten is the skills of defense, and more particularly tackling, proper tackling technique. I'd like to make a suggestion to you, if you are a youth coach, that if you are unable to demonstrate yourself, because you yourself are not a player, any of these skills as you're teaching them to your players, you can always use the information on our DVD. You can also contact the high school coach and acquire a couple of the high school players to come and to do some demonstrations for you. This makes a lot of sense. Finally, let's talk about the tactics of the game. This is where now the next few comments for the next few minutes will be focused, and it's such an important part of the game. I want to make the observation that you cannot teach a game that your players have not seen. And to that degree, maybe the most important thing you can do to develop the talent of your players is to ask your players to watch the game. There's a lot of ways we can do this. Obviously, watching MLS games is important, but I recommend that you're watching and your players are watching as many European games as possible, the English Premier League as well as the other leagues, of course the Italian Serie A and the Spanish League, as well as the leagues of the South, including not only the Mexican League but also the Brazilian League and the Argentine League. Any amount of viewing that can be watched is going to improve overall performance. I recommend recording games as a coach and then giving them to your players and asking your players to not only watch the game but to begin to critique the game. How defensively, what are we running, systems of play, that kind of thing. I have on the DVD explained some of this information you'll see later through the setting out and manipulation of cones, disc cones, as a way to teach this to young players. However, I want to go ahead and use my whiteboard behind me here and talk very quickly about the fundamental tactical understandings. Anytime that you're teaching youth players, you always want to make sure that they understand some of these most fundamental principles. So let's talk about them now. And let's begin by talking about the soccer pitch as a pitch of actually thirds. Whether you're working with very young players or you're working with the varsity high school program, we always talk about the field in thirds. First of all, let's talk about the thirds that go across the field. And by the way, I recommend that you teach this to your players in this way, even with a whiteboard at the beginning of your season, so that we're all on the same playbook page. And if we are attacking going this way, we talk about this as our defensive third, this as our middle third, and this as our attacking third. It's so vital that we understand, both as coaches and we help our players understand, that on the field, all players defend and all players attack. It is one of the hallmark mistakes of rec soccer that we put some guys back here, we plant them in front of the 18 box, and we say, you are defenders, and your job is to keep the ball from going into the goal. The reason that I say it is it's improper is that all defense for us will begin with our striker play. If our strikers don't play solid defense when the ball is in our own attacking third, their defending third, then clearly we're going to struggle. Obviously, we have to play as well strong defense in the middle third. So it is not just our defenders that will play defense. Likewise, if you only rely on your front attacking players to score your goals, when you meet teams that tactically know how to adjust, you will struggle. Defenders have to be willing to come forward and, in fact, strike balls and finish. And, of course, often defenders are some of our best athletes anyway. And so we want them forward in set pieces in the wide. We also will talk about the field in another way in thirds. And this, we don't use the word thirds now, but rather the word channels. The English inventing much of this game, and we use oftentimes their nomenclature. We can talk about, again, if we are attacking going this way, we can talk about the left channel. We can talk about the middle channel, or what we will call often the spine, and then the outside right channel. And so any time that we are talking about the game in terms of tactics, we have a couple of really important understandings as it relates specifically to these two understandings of thirds. Let's first of all talk about this one. When we're talking about attacking and defending here, we want to make sure that we are always compressing to the ball. By that, what we mean is that we are making sure that we do not have players all the way back here while our other players are attacking up here. If the ball is here for us, we want to make sure that our fullbacks are here in support, maybe even as far up as here. Likewise, if the ball is here and we are defending with fullbacks, obviously, we want to make sure that our strikers are dropping back into positions where they are helping defensively as well. In other words, we will, what we call in our team shape sprints, you'll even see this demonstrated on the video, we do this regularly. We want to make sure that our lines of attack and defense remain compressed, so that we are always making sure that we are attacking and defending as a team. In other words, we never want to find players standing far at the 18, kicking the ball the length of the field to strikers who are standing up waiting. We attack and we defend together. Conversely, or along with that information, we also want to think about movement when we look at thirds. Again, we think about the field as divided directly down the middle, which we will call the spine, and then we work with off spine either to the left or to the right. And the understanding here is that we are always going to, on defense, pinch to the side where the ball is. So for example, if the other team has the ball and we are attacking this way and they have the ball there, then we are going to make sure that our players will all be pinching in some kinds of formations to this spot. In other words, if the ball is here, we don't want our right fullback standing out here. That's a major no-no. Okay? Some of you might say, well, if our right fullback has come all the way in here, then won't all this area be open? And the answer, of course, is yes, which is why we have to close this down so quickly. Offensively, however, we have an understanding as well. Teams will obviously be trying to do this to us, and so we will quickly want to exploit space by swinging the ball, is the language that we use, by swinging the ball to the opposite channel and then trying to play quickly up this channel. This is what we call switching the point of attack, and we want to do this quickly. And in fact, we will see drills later on the DVD where we teach patterns of play like dropping the ball, swinging the ball to try to create these opportunities of space. Soccer is a game where we try to, as much as possible, exploit space. And yet defensively, we want to make sure that we are always maintaining our defensive integrity, is a nice way to say it. Now, the other important element of the game is that we have an understanding that soccer is what we call an inside-outside game. By that, what do we mean? If the ball is outside, in other words, our three channels, if the ball is outside, we immediately look to try to play that ball inside. If the ball is inside, on spine for example, we immediately look to try to play that ball outside. Soccer is an inside-outside game. If we find ourselves simply kicking the balls forward, this is what we call being frontal. Most of the time, as players age up, tactics will take care of that. So soccer is a very different game from basketball in a number of respects, most importantly in this respect. In basketball, it is a very frontal game. We rebound the ball, we go the length of the floor, we always know the direction that we're going. Soccer is a strange sport in this regards, and American players have to unlearn some of their habits from football as well as basketball. In soccer, we often will say it this way, we go forwards to go, we go backwards to go forwards. What do we mean by that? Well, if we are defensively, for example, up against a packed 18, let's say, for example, that they are running a diamond formation and they have this many back, and we have the ball here, and they are covering this ball by bringing defense, by bringing all kinds of defense, then we recognize we cannot expect a striker to try and beat four guys. So what do? Well, we will drop that ball to another player, dropping simply meaning to release the ball backwards, and then we will look to try and play that ball outside, maybe across the field. And as this ball is being played possibly to another player, this player then will be moving to try to create space. We have the other striker moving as well, which will allow then for the opportunity of a goal to be scored. So tactically we say, we often will go backwards to go forwards. We will use then our voice as coaches to make some of these observations, even in game. Do you have a drop available? If you don't have a drop available, you're always calling for that drop. It is the job of the coach in game to remind fullbacks that as we are attacking and the ball is here, that we've got to have fullbacks up in support, anticipating the opportunity of these drops. Okay? So this is some basic understandings of tactics. Let's talk now very quickly about systems of play. We will align our players up in different ways on the field. Now, please understand, we can talk about systems of play, but these understandings will change or vary as the kickoff happens. In other words, players will never stand in one spot. They will move all over the field, and in fact, we want players to fill other positions and then those positions to be filled by other players as well. So in other words, soccer is a game of constant fluidity or movement. Our job is to teach the fundamental principles. We will talk about then these positions as related to a series of backline players, we'll call them defenders, midfielders, and then of course attackers. The traditional formation that we will use at the high school level, and certainly it makes some sense then for you to begin to instruct this in your youth programs, is to work with a numbering system that numbers the goalkeeper as 1, the outside left back is 2, our sweeper is 3, our outside right back is 4, the outside left mid is 5, the center back, or the stopper as we often will refer to him, is 6, the outside right midfielder is 7, the 2 inside midfielders as 8 and 9, our 2 strikers then as 10 and 11. The challenge for us is to begin to teach a concept then of systems of play. You will notice we don't count the goalkeeper when we talk about systems of play, that here we have 1, 2, 3, 4 fullbacks, we have 4 midfielders, and we have 2 strikers. So we will talk about this system as a 4-4-2. If we elect to allow our 6 to spend more time in the midfield, we might talk about this system as a 3-5-2. On the other hand, if defensively we need to do it, we can always bring back a midfielder into our fullback line to allow for us to play with 5 fullbacks, which will then change obviously the numbering and the alignment here on the pitch. So the challenge for us then is to develop players who understand this notion of attacking and defending. I want to talk now finally about some coaching issues and some of the challenges that obviously will come your way at times. I will speak very briefly about these. Obviously there's a lot of information, good coaching information out there. Let's begin by player selection and understanding as a coach where to play players. This is a very, very tough question, and obviously age dependent has something to do with this as well. When we're talking about player selection, one of the first things that I want to point out is that you want all of your players to know how to play all of the positions. In other words, if you got a guy playing the number 1 keeper who's never really played in the field, he will struggle or she will struggle to understand oftentimes what is going on. The Brazilians, in fact, like to take their 11 in training sessions, have him play goalkeeper and their goalkeeper play the striker position oftentimes in training sessions, just to have a feel of the flow of the game. Challenging players to learn then all of the different positions will allow them to realize they are soccer players and not just, for example, a defender or a midfielder or a striker. If, for example, you've played a player through a season or two, a player has played at a fullback position, and then you inherit that player, and you say, I'd like for you to go play at the forward position, and the player says, I am only a fullback, you can say, great, go be a fullback at the 11 or at the 10 position. In other words, use what you know about defending and just apply it up top. Let's talk real quickly about conflict resolution. Obviously, there will be problems at times. You can have problems with players who are challenging you and wanting to know why you are doing what you are doing. And this is why I will say to you, it's very important that you are very disciplined as a coach in your planning of your training sessions and the like. If there are problems, I highly recommend that you solve those problems or resolve those problems outside of the chemistry of the team in the middle of training session. You have to demand respect during your training session. If you have a player who is having problems in regards to that, it might be better to ask that player to leave training session and come back later, maybe sit down with the parent and talk. Obviously, parents sometimes will pose problems for us as coaches. Oftentimes, those parents will cause those problems because, frankly, they don't understand. So the challenge for you as a coach is to make sure that you articulate very clearly early on what your philosophy is. I want to recommend that your philosophy be, that you are training soccer players to learn to love and play this game. You are not training soccer players to win. That is a silly focus when especially we're in young situations with young talent. There isn't any reason at all to be training our players to win games or to focus them on winning games, but rather to compete in those games. Because obviously you're going to come up at times in youth soccer against teams that are physically much more advanced, and therefore we may not be able to win the game, but can we compete in the game? That will be the focus. Again, at the issue of parents, I highly recommend that you involve a second coach if you are in a very heated conversation with a parent, just so that you have backup. Finally, dealing with losses. Anytime that you're a competitive coach, you are in a competitive environment, you have to find a way to use losses to try and teach and to challenge players to learn. Instead of yelling at players after losses, I highly recommend that you take a different approach and that you really talk to your players about what it is that we learn when we are in competition and we do not succeed. And then use that information to try to, as much as possible, improve for the next game. Discipline is the key, and I'm a real believer in instilling discipline during training sessions and then during games. The way you arrive at a training session will say everything about you as a coach. Show up with a written plan. Make sure that your players and the parents of those players understand what your expectations are when you show up at the training pitch and you are ready to go. If you show up at the training pitch and some of your players are already there, you let them know that you expect that they should be working on individual skills and or passing that ball, not running around kicking that ball wildly and this type of thing. Being prepared is a central hallmark of great coaches, and I challenge you to make sure that you are prepared at all times. During matches, this is huge as well. What you have to say before the match is big. I would recommend that you give 1 or 2 observations to your players, and only 1 or 2, especially if they are youth players, to make sure that they understand exactly what it is that they are going into the game to try to accomplish. When you are setting up your training sessions, I highly recommend that you use that system I was outlining a moment ago: physical, technical, tactical, and then psychological. As well, when you go into the game, I recommend that you have something to say about the technical work that you're trying to do, and then 1 tactical observation as well. During matches, you have to control your emotions, because your athletes won't if you don't. I'm a firm believer in this, having spoken for years to refs who say that players play and follow their coach's lead. If you are a screamer yeller of negative comments during games, it will only be a matter of time before your players will begin to scream and yell at each other. So I challenge you to be very positive in your observations to your players. Do not be negative. If you point out that a player swung and missed the ball, you are pointing out the obvious. Obviously, the young player knows that he swung and missed the ball. Instead, make a technical observation about how to improve. I would recommend that you reserve the majority of your comments for those players when they are off the pitch as opposed to on the pitch. If we are screaming all the time instruction at our players while they're on the pitch, they will not learn to problem solve on the pitch. And obviously, myself included, all of us have been guilty of trying to do too much in-game coaching while players are playing the game. Just be aware of it. Finally, I would say to you, and this is an important one for me, make sure that you watch the language that you use at all times with youth players. I'm a real believer that we should never be using profanity of any kind, especially in front of their parents during game situations. It's the last thing that we want to do, because we will teach our young players that undisciplined behavior, especially language, is acceptable, and that will in turn create high school players which cannot be so disciplined during games, and obviously that's a big deal. Finally, set pieces. Obviously very important that we are teaching set pieces, from goal kicks to throw-ins to kickoffs to, of course, free kicks and corners. And my recommendation to you with youth players is keep it simple. Find the information online or in books or on DVDs that can really help you. Talk with the high school coach maybe. Have 1 or 2 plays and that's it. And keep it very simple. And finally, coaching your keepers. It's very important that you are working with your goalkeepers. I recommend that if you want some expertise, there's all kinds of good video information out there. Make your keepers a part of your team. Give them some additional coaching before or after practices, so that they feel that like being a goalkeeper is not a punishment for them but a reward. Coach Greg Hemmons has worked for many years with our goalkeepers, and obviously you might want to contact him if you have some concerns about how to improve your goalkeepers. Finally, the psychological side of the game. I've actually been talking about it all because if you know what you're doing and you feel confident in your abilities, then you will be able to express that confidence to your players. The psychological dimension is huge. The ability to train your players to be learners of the game, and that, in my estimation, is the most important thing while having a great time. I wish you the best of luck, and I hope that you will have great success. Warrior skills. We like to begin our warrior practice actually every afternoon with these skills. Stefan Pyre is going to demonstrate these to us. The key with warrior skills is to make sure that technically we are following our fundamentals correctly. Find 2 or 3 of your players who have the ability to do this technical work. Model it for your players as best you can. You can use Stefan here on the video to show players what it looks like. Learn the routine as Stefan is explaining it, and then have your players work in a line across the width of the field or a distance that you designate with cones if they're very young. The concentration and the focus is the key. The challenge, when the balls are up in the air, to try to keep them in your hands as opposed to on the floor. When the balls are on the floor, true concentration the entire time. I'll turn it over now to Stefan, and he'll walk you through the warrior skills with some explanations of what it is that you're looking for.
The 3 parts are the dribbling, the touching, and the juggling. The first part is the dribbling. We start off what we call is toss and touch. We're going to go down the field and back, okay? You're going to toss the ball up and hit it right back to you. The key part is we want that ball to go straight up and straight down without any spin. You can go right and left, okay? Just down, all the way down. For each kick, you want to take a couple steps so that you're always on your feet. The ankle's locked and it's straight out like this, so that when the ball hits it, it goes straight up. And you're just going to go down the field and back. That's one, and that's that portion. Second portion is the dribbling portion. You can go down and back at the width of the field, or you can go to length if you want. And you alternate each time. Like down, you say you do a scissors. So you'll be dribbling, do scissors, step over, keep going. Dribbling, do scissors, step over, keep going. And then on the way back, you might switch it up. Like do a step over. So you can come down, you step over, and go. Come down, step over, and go. All the way down, all the way back. There's many other moves you could do. I'll just show example of ones. Another one is the double touch. Dribbling, you're going to touch it with the inside of your right foot, inside left foot, keep going. So it'll look like this, full speed. Just keep going. The next thing you can do is called drag dribbling. Dribbling is regular, drag dribbling. You're dragging and you're pulling the ball. You can go all the way down with the right, all the way back with the left. In full speed, it might look something like this. Okay. Once you get the drag dribbling down, then you can do moves involved. So you'll drag dribble, then you do a step over, then go. Or you do a drag dribble, do scissors, and then go. Alternate each foot each time. Moves can vary. The second portion of this is the trap work. It's using top, bottom, the top, the bottom, the thighs, the chest, and the head. The key part of this is concentration. First part is both with the right and left foot. You're going to toss the ball up in the air, trap it right down, take a couple steps. With the ball under control. Then you can go to the left foot, trap it down, under control. And that's called the top of the foot. Now when you go to the bottom foot, just toss it up, go over it, control it, then go. Okay? And then you switch, you alternate, you go to the left. Toss it up, switch, and then go. You want to stay comfortable in your own range. So you toss it up from here, then you can start gradually tossing up higher, then higher, right? Third one is the thighs. The key with the thighs is you don't want to hit the ball. You don't want to hit it straight up. You want the ball to hit off your leg at an angle, like this, so it goes straight down. You with the ball under control. So when you do it, go straight down. Here's a different angle at the right. Okay. This is left as well. Fourth portion of this is the chest. When the ball's coming down, you want to cushion the ball. You want to lean back. When the ball comes, you want to cushion it to the ground. You don't want it to come off and bounce off. You want it to cushion. So you throw it up, cushion the ball, then go. You want to do it. You don't want to go straight on spine. Like Coach McGee said, you want to go off to the sides. So you come down, lean, and then go. The last portion is the head, which is the hardest to concentrate and the hardest to master. The young one starting out, you're gonna throw the ball up, you're just gonna head it and try and head it right down. The key is you want to almost spring the bounce. So as the ball's coming down, you're coming down with it. So that when it hits your head, it comes straight down. Might look something like this. And then go. Okay. The last portion of the video is juggling. You're going to use different variations. The first one is right foot only. They're going to start with the ball on the ground, chip it up, and juggle with the right foot only. As McGee said earlier, Coach McGee, you don't want the ball to be spinning. You just want the ball going straight up and down. And once you can be able to do that, you can continue to do that, you want to change the height of the ball. So you'll be dribbling, kick it up, and keep going. Kick it up, keep going, okay? Next thing is left foot. You sit here, juggle with your left foot only. Once you get more advanced, start going up. So you go up, juggle. Alright? Third stage is both feet. You want to alternate each time, but you also want to mix it up. So you'll be dribbling, juggling, like this. Don't do that. Okay? The third portion of this is juggling both feet. You want to use both of your feet to get better. So you'll be juggling, just back and forth, back and forth. Then once you get more advanced, you start going 2 right, 2 left, 3 right, 3 left, and you switch it up. The fourth stage is the thighs. And this is a key portion. When you're juggling, it's not like the trap, you don't want it down here. You want your ankle up here, your knee up here. So it's just going like this, back and forth. You can start out at the right if you want, or you can go to both. See, you'll be juggling like this. See how many you guys can do. Okay, and that goes to the same. You could juggle like this, and then hit it up, and then keep juggling. And then hit it up, and then keep juggling. The last portion for the skilled players and the players starting out, just to try it, is to use your shoulders and your head and your other shoulder. Okay. The key thing to memorize here is just to concentrate and don't try and overuse it. Okay, the shoulder in the game is legal as long as it's on top, but if it comes right here, it's not. So when you're juggling, it's all about concentration and watching that ball the whole time. Okay, I'll show a quick demonstration. Something like that. And that ends warrior skills. Thank you. 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10.
In warrior soccer, we really believe that we need to be stretching our athletes. It's very important that we do have some kind of stretching routine, especially with the older players, but it's not a bad idea, even with our U10s, U8s, to instill in our players the understanding of the importance of stretching, proper warm-up after a run, then set to some kind of stretching routine is a good idea.
5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. To the left. Ready? Begin. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. Swing to the right. Ready? Begin. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. To the left. Ready? Begin. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10.
Butterfly. Ready? Begin.
1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10.
Press right over left. Ready? Begin.
1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10.
Switch. Ready? Begin.
1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10.
Play back on your right leg. You're going to need a new person to do push-ups.
was about to say that, but I didn't.
Ready, begin.
1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. Ready. I did dumbbell bench today.
Ready, begin.
1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. Fairly forward. Ready, begin. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. Good. Ready, begin. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. Ready, go. You can't.
Okay, that's good, Bush, that's good.
This is the Hugo 1 run. We often will use this as our warm-up run of choice. A series of warm-up calisthenics beginning very slow and culminating in sprints. You will notice that the grid is made with 5 cones, one in the center, to allow for some sense of directionality. If you really want to work on conditioning, you can make this grid larger. If you just want a quick warm-up, you can make the grid relatively small. Go ahead and watch the progression. It's your father that I've not enjoyed conversations with, huh? Attempts. That was a fine attempt.
Probably.
Right, I believe it. We will always finish with a series of 5 sprints through the entire rotation, which is to say both lines. So that the idea behind this drill is that once we finish, players have been warmed up fairly well. And that way you're working. We call this coordination drill the Hugo 2 run, a series of movements. Posture is very important for us. We want the chest up, we want the chin held aloft so that we give the presence then of proper posture on the pitch. It's so important in our IFA philosophy, our warrior philosophy, that our posture is always as spread, as tall, and as broad as we can be. We begin forwards and then backwards with this coordination work. It becomes the foundational principles for much of our body movement. We have this as the Hugo 2 run, and we also have a Hugo 1 run. Please see that section as well.
Perfectly fine.
The next progression from here is what we will call the Mindy Run, a series of movements orchestrated by team captains on a command. You as the coach will be able to adjust this to age-appropriate commands, and you, the coach, can certainly stand in the center and conduct the Mindy Run, as we call it. Plyometrics are a key component to the preparation of our athletes. The challenge is to work hard during the entire sequence. We are working at the moment with 10 cones and 3 repetitions through for each. The challenge is to bring the knees as high as we can. If you're working with plyometrics with your younger players, you really have to pay attention to the potentiality for fatigue. You can always begin with a fewer number of cones. In fact, we usually begin our warrior season with only 5 or even less cones to be able to build up the strength and conditioning. And you never want to do plyometrics 2 days in a row. They fatigue the body so much that you really want to rest the body at least one training session. I can always voice over from there. Okay, we're watching the Danny run. We call this the quick feet work. Very important that we're working with the proper posture again. We also expect the arms always to be a help as well. The quicker the feet, the better. We really believe that this work will enhance overall athletic performance, especially if we start this kind of training when the players are quite young. To be able to do this with your full team, you will need a number of cones, so it makes sense to have at least 50 cones in your holdings of the small disc cones. One of the things we do in Warrior Soccer to enhance our physical training is to just go out and get a black tire, a bike tire, and we'll then put this around the waist of one of our athletes, and then another athlete will hold and provide resistance. The coaching points here, we want the head to remain solid and straight as opposed to moving during sprints. Focus of the eyes as well, somewhere out in front of the athlete is as well important. You'll see in a moment here our athletes actually doing this. It's a very good physical training for us. One of the more important elements of soccer on the physical side is our core strength. We are always developing the core strength of our athletes, and one of the ways we do this is through our core stretching. You'll want to do these before training sessions or after your stretching and before your actual tactical work. We'll always begin with the front leg, right leg up. The way we do this is knee goes up and then we go out and we simply hold it for a count of 10. Then the leg comes down. Then we're going to go with the right leg to the back. Balance is a huge part of this drill to help athletes develop their core strength and their balance. We try and get as far back as we can while remaining as far erect as we can. We'll do the same thing with our left, up and out and down and then to the back. And again, each one of these at a team count of 10. And then the next one that we will always do is the HR, as we call it. Legs are separated and we squat down. We are always in a straight position with our back. We do not want to be leaning forwards. We are developing the strength in the quads as well as the rest of the leg muscles, and it is as well a very good psychological exercise as well because the body begins to fatigue. The key in HRs is to relax and to breathe nice and gently. The goal here is to be able for your club to be able to go over 2 or 3 minutes holding this position. The other one is what we will call the free falling or the parachute. You're on the ground and on a count of ready, go, everyone is up. If you can just leave your abdomen on the grass and nothing else on the grass, that is perfect. The legs come up, the arms come up, this chest comes up, and then for a count of 10, everyone is as high as they can get. This allows for the back areas to be developed in the core strength. We have a couple of physical as well exercises. We will do our crunches in a very particular way. Kind of watch this one. Again, we are isolating the abdominal muscles, and we'll do this on a count together so that we're up and crunching together. Go ahead and up 1, up 2, up 3, up 4, up 5. Thank you. And our push-ups. We like to work with diamond push-ups. Show the diamond to the camera so that they understand exactly what they're doing. And we want the back to be straight. With your young players, forget about push-ups. Just have them hold this position. And again, the core strength development. You will begin to see your players starting to shake a little bit and their muscles beginning to fatigue. We do not want the buttocks in the air. We want everything nice and flat. And then we'll go down and then up. And then down and then up. And we at times will go down and hold it. This is another core strength exercise which will begin to immediately develop the internal strength. Okay, thank you. Our toss and touch work is a crucial part of what we do in our club. Very simple. We have one player that will toss the ball. The toss is very important, always underhand. We are always putting the ball in a situation where we want to make sure that the player who is kicking that ball can have great success. Repetition is a huge part of this. The more touches on the ball, the better. Notice that we are opening up. We are eyes on the ball the entire time. Hold the ball for just a second so I can point this out on the video. We want to make sure that our eyes are always focused on the ball. We want to make sure we have early preparation. This knee is bent. We want to get this up. The key, if you're a coach watching this, is you want to see that this right shoulder is down. It is dipped. It shows that we are really concentrating as we're ready to kick with the right foot. Early preparation. We're not kicking this ball, we're touching this ball, which is why we call it toss and touch. Early preparation, the ankle has to be locked with the toe pointed up so that we're here, Okay, watch how Stefan does this now, all right? This is so important to good posture. See, the ball will not spin if it's done right. Notice the ball just kind of floats back in the air. Notice that when he touches that ball, he then goes to the floor, takes a couple of steps, repositions himself, and there it is. The arms we would like out nice and wide, that way that we're really focusing on people who might be coming at us. We start with the inside of the foot, then we go to the top of the toe, point that toe, I say top of the foot, not top of the toe, point that toe. Again, total concentration. Still dropping that shoulder when you hit. Okay? Come over here. There it is. Good. And reaching. Notice it's not kicking, it's early preparation, and that's the key for us. Early preparation, just touching that ball back. Okay, next one. We emphasize a lot of one touch in our training sessions, the speed of play. We do a simple drill where we have 4 players on the outside, 1 player is the defender on the inside, working to try to receive that ball. And our challenge is to try to make at least a series of 3 passes in a row that are one-touch passes under control. And then we switch players on the inside out over and over so that there's not a fatigue factor involved. It's a very good drill for conditioning. If you really want to condition, you can raise the size of the grid, make it even larger. Smaller grids, of course, require more precision in the passing. The ability to one-touch that ball is central to our success as a club. Okay, we work off of the thigh. We touch the thigh to 1 foot, and then we're right back again. Again, the toss is so important. Put the toss right on the thigh so that there's success. We want the offensive player to have total success with the touches of the ball. Okay, good. Next one. All right, we always work now off the chest. And hold the ball for just a second so that we can show this. As Davila is receiving that ball, we center right down the center, we call the spine. As he touches that ball, he will turn ever so slightly to touch the ball, what we call off spine, as opposed to straight on so that it bounces straight back towards the defender. Once he touches it off spine, he turns, and then he will play the ball with his feet. Go ahead and watch how he does it. This does take time and practice, which is why we have to start when we're young. Great touches off the ball. Again, the eyes never leave the ball, always on the ball the entire time. Again, the arms always out to make sure that you're feeling for any possible defender. And good, to the next one. Now is so important. We make sure that we leave our eyes open. We make sure that the leg positioning is correct, normally 1 foot in front of the other. The arms will be important. We're going to keep the neck tight. We are actually heading with the abdominal muscles. We use the stomach muscles, which is why the entire torso will move forward. But the key, just like all of our toss and touch drills, eyes on the ball, all the way to the forehead and off. Very good. The 2-touch pass in soccer, of course, is the most important pass for us. Very simple. We start with about 10 or 15 yards separating. 2-touch, 1 touch is a presentation touch. The 2nd touch is the pass itself. Let's go ahead now and teach the passing touch real fast. The pass itself, so important. The plant foot wants to be here next to the ball. We will then come on top of the ball. We again want our eyes to be focused on the ball. Here, the ankle is locked, the toe is pointed up, and we're going to clip the top of the grass as we come through, just like this. It's not a bad idea, in fact, to have your players just do this, even without kicking a ball. Again, the key is drop that shoulder down of the kicking foot. Make sure that the bending knee shock absorbs that ball. When I'm receiving that ball, just like as we were saying with the toss and touch off the chest, I never want to receive that ball straight in front of me and touch it in front of me. Nor do I ever want to receive that ball with the underside of the boot, a problem with many youth players who will try and do this. A mistake in wet grass, it could go under. I always want to make my presentation touch off spine again. So I'm here, take a little touch off, now I'm ready, then I make the touch. Go ahead and watch how Stefan and Davila play this one. Go ahead. Off, good. Very good. Proper form. Speed is not the factor here. We don't care about going fast, nor is power to begin with. Accuracy. Everything is about accuracy. And then communicating to make sure that we call each other's name before we pass. We even look up and make eye contact to make sure that we know where we're passing that ball. Notice the feet are always moving. We never are standing still in this
Yeah,
drill. If you see that players are standing still, just remind them that in the game of soccer, always movement, always movement. From 2-touch then, we evolve to 1-touch, where the ball now does not stop. And again, we start in very close, and we try and put a ball in a space right where we can play that ball directly back. As soon as we kick the ball, we immediately are ready to receive that ball again. We try and keep the ball on the ground. We do not want it to come up into the air. We want to make sure that we can kick with both feet as well. Emphasizing left as well as right is so, so important. We teach patterns of passing. One of those is the first touch, 1-touch. We like to play to a point man. Ball often will come back. Our quest here is to keep those first touch passes on the floor. Everybody's moving. Everybody's moving. Okay, we're looking at a very simple 3-man passing drill. One man is the point man with the ball. The other two are always first touching back to the passer. One man will show short, one man will show long. The timing is everything here. Make sure all 3 players have the opportunity to be the dribbler passer.
No, he thought that's you, my friend.
That ain't the name he mentioned at all. Hey, your secret safe with me and Hunter.
Here we go, here we go. 1 touch, 1 touch.
Yeah, stop.
Go.
Everything's 1 touch. Everything's 1 touch. Good luck.
Passing, you guys. Go.
Come on, Davey, finish that.
Nice save, Pete. Good job, Hab.
Dribbling is such an important part of developing the full technical player. One of the things we like to do is to just set flat disc cones out on the training pitch, ask players to dribble up to a cone, make a move, dribble away from the cone. All kinds of moves can be practiced here, inside of the foot, outside of the foot, pullback, step overs. We'll even go around the cone at times, making circular movements around the cone. Here in a few moments, we'll be able to take the cone. There's actually 2 cones stacked on top of each cone, and we'll create small gates which allow for our players to be able to dribble through. This is terrific technical work for players even as young as our U5s, U6s. The more technical the players, the smaller the grid. The less technical the players, the larger the grid area. All right, let's remind ourselves one more time. Proper tackle technique. You want to make sure that the standing knee is bent. You want to make sure that you tackle first with the eyes and then with the foot. You want to make sure, please, that you are locking that ankle out for the tackle ankle. Make sure that you are hitting that ball with good work, eyes on the ball. Concentrate. Remember, on my call. Ready? We'll go right foot first. We'll go on a count of 1, 2, 3, and then you hit it. Ready? 1, 2, 3. And again, set the ball. 1, 2, 3. 1, 2, 3. Get low, get low. Remember, keep your eyes focused on that ball. We tackle with our eyes first, then we tackle with our body. 1, 2, 3. Get your arms out. 1, 2, 3. Switch it, go to the left foot. You really got to concentrate on the left foot for most of us because that's our non-dominant foot. Let's concentrate. 1, 2, 3. 1, 2, 3. 1, 2, 3. Switch back. Now we'll go with power. Again, you got to lower your center of gravity. That's why you're bending that standing knee. 1, 2, 3. Hit it with some power. 1, 2, 3. The drill you're now watching is what we call our hot box drill. This is one of the oldest and most most infamous of our drills that we work with in our Warrior program. We have an individual defender who will play between two designated areas as designated by the flag. 5 offensive players will come at the player against the goalkeeper, the hot box obviously, the area in front of the flag, and then a new defender will jump in so that the drill then remains very quick, very dynamic, very active. Principles of defense that we work with in this drill, obviously very important. The ability to close guys down quickly. Obviously we're as well working offensive skill sets, 1v1 moves. We'll begin with 1v1, and then we'll move to 2v2 and finally 3v3 in this drill, allowing for us to deal with the progression. The challenge is for the defender to get back in time so that the offensive player can take advantage. Shooting the ball is obviously one of the most important elements of the game, and it's so important that we teach this correctly. Let's walk through the fundamentals quickly, and then we'll watch a couple of demonstrations with Pyre Davila. The key in shooting is to have the eyes always on the ball. The placement of the standing foot is so important to make sure that you are not too far away from the ball or not too close to the ball. The proper placement of the foot. Weight distribution is as well very important, so that as I'm kicking that ball, I want to be over that ball so that I'm able to see that ball while at the same time I'm able to get my power. The key as well is to lock this ankle as I strike this ball. The locking of the ankle will allow for power. The other key is the arm pull, as we call it. We're going to move this arm across our body to generate the power of our abdomen as we strike that ball. We want to leave our head down until our foot plants, and then we will look up. Let's take a look at these guys as they hit a few of these balls. Jesus will step in now and hit one of these balls. Very good. And then you can
Oh.
1v1 work is so important for us. We use this drill a lot. We have one player that will pass the ball across the grid to a second player. We'll close that player down quickly, break down, eyes totally focused on the ball, watching that ball the whole time. In our early drills, we do not allow tackling of the ball. We are simply focused on proper defensive close. We will use communication and say, I've got ball, or simply ball. The butt will drop, the lower the center of gravity, eyes total concentration focus. And then we will give ground so that the dribbler can practice dribbling that ball. Of course, we will begin to tackle that ball at some point, but it's so important that players learn proper defensive spacing, and this has to happen at both at 1v1, 2v2, 3v3, of course, and beyond. Okay, thanks.
Get over that, get over that.
From 1v1 we progress to 2v2. The challenges here are obviously more important for us. The ball will begin with a pass and a return pass, and then we are playing two-man. The challenge is to step up, play solid defense, to be prepared, and to communicate with your partner. Ball is passed, up comes the defense. One will declare that he has ball, the other will play support defense in behind. It is important that the second defender is in a proper cover position. The second defender, let's review it just one time. Watching this grid, please. Zimmer will pass to Davila and receive it back. And here comes the defense. Hold the ball.
Okay.
First defender is on the ball. He will push the ball and the dribbler back towards his support. So he will open this way, not this way. This way, too much space. Our second defender is not there to help. So he's going to push this ball towards the second defender. defender. The second defender does not want to be too high. He's got to be here in case this player gets beat. If this player gets beat, second defender's got to step up. As the ball is passed across, the movement is now up and drop. It needs to happen on the movement of the ball, not when the ball receives here. On the pass, the movement has to occur. That's scissor action. Let's see it again. Ball goes across and up and across and back and up and across and one more time across. And notice he's showing to the inside. To the inside. Any questions? Let's go. Get your reps. We label this training drill numbers passing. We designate 1, 2, 3, and 4, team orange, team black, and then we pass in that successive order. This numbers passing begins with hands. The communication is the key, and we use the throw-in form just to kind of practice. On a coach's command, we then will go to the floor for passing in the successive order with 2 balls, then with 1 ball, and then we play live. So watch the sequence. This is an outstanding drill to develop both technical as well as tactical understandings, since all 4 players have to be looking for each other at all times in the grid. Balls to floor! One touch if you can do it. One touch if you can do it. Everybody's communicating. In this drill, when we begin, we ask the defense to not touch the ball, but simply to track the ball. So this allows then for the opponent, or for the individuals receiving the ball, to just concentrate on receiving the ball, make a good pass, and then move to space. Hang on a sec. Hey! You did that on purpose! Alright, here we go. Did you flinch?
Yeah! Ow!
You whip!
Ow!
Because I gotta talk. Is that gonna be okay?
Yeah,
Or would it be better for you just to stand on a bench?
it's fine.
You're not too high? Okay. Are you recording now? Oh, you are? Okay. Big steps backwards. You guys that are receiving it, go ahead and press the circle a little bit. You ought to be able to, that way you'll, I can't help it you didn't win last night, Bush.
Didn't stand a chance, Jesse.
Woo!
Oh.
Hello, very nice.
Kids can't speak gibberish, Jesse.
Okay, I'll translate. McGee!
What?
Don't walk in front of the camera.
Okay.